I'm making food from Rwanda: brochettes, Isombe, Ubugali, and peanut nougat. So, starting off with the brochettes. First, I'm making the spicy tomato sauce for it. That's pretty simple. Chili, tomatoes. I use some plum cherry tomatoes, onion, and blend it up into a paste. Also added in some tomato paste because extra tomato is excellent. Also some spices, salt, pepper, Maggi cube crumbled up. And there it is, pretty simple, just a kind of a spicy tomato paste. Can't really get much more simple than that. Going to make the brochettes next. So for this, I'm using chicken thighs and beef. Specifically, I think I'm using sirloin steak for this. Traditionally, it would probably be better to use goat. That's probably what they would use more often in Rwanda. However, getting hold of goat in the UK is a right pain in the arse. Really, really hard. And in the spirit of things, use what you can get hold of easily. So that's what I'm doing here, because getting hold of chicken and beef is way simpler. And it's not like they wouldn't use that over there. You'd use anything you have to hand. But very simple, just cutting this up into pieces to skewer. So the word brochette comes from French. It's French for skewer. There's a reason they are popular in Rwanda, specifically in the francophone regions of Rwanda. It came from French colonization times. So that's where that comes from. But it is a very simple dish. Just throw on the meat into the skewers. Very simple. I kept my beef skewers beefy, my chicken skewers skewery, but at this point it's just personal preference. This dish itself is so simple, it doesn't really require too much thinking about. Make do with what you have. Next step after I've got all my meat on, heck darn, this is one of those things that's easy, but it just takes a heck of a long time to put everything together onto my little bamboo sticks. Get them all going. Neat. Next step is to marinate them in that spicy tomato sauce that I made. So I'm just kind of brushing these on. And in hindsight, I'm kind of looking back and I'm like, I really wish I'd just taken my hands and just rubbed it all over, just because that seems really satisfying now. Anyway, put them to the side. Next, I'm making the Isombe. This is basically stewed greens. So I've got my spring onions, got my green pepper. And they're the first two greens that I'm going to be putting them in. Putting in? You know what I mean. Traditionally made with cassava leaves. I didn't have cassava leaves at this point. I have since been able to try them. But not my favourite. But basically whatever greens you have to hand. Cassava greens are traditionally a bit bitter. In place of that, I will be using sea beet. The sea beet that I had to hand this time and had saved was actually a little bit bitter. So that helps. A little bit like that. Essentially, it's a mixture of just green vegetables, like I say, the spring onions, the green pepper, and then I'll have my sea beet. I'm also going to include spinach, and aubergine. All of that together, and throw in some peanut butter. So that will be my Isombe. Now, to make this, I'm frying it off initially. I'm using the whiter parts of the spring onion and the peppers, frying them, sautéing them. Yeah, let's use sauté. It's French. And as this is from the francophone regions of Rwanda, that feels more appropriate. Anyway, sautéing them off, get them slightly cooking through and translucenty a little bit. Green onions even really go that translucent? Not really, but you know what I mean. Get them softened up, as it's a stewed green mixture, and these take a bit longer to cook. Anyway, a while later, now they've cooked down, I'm throwing in my aubergine. Aubergine at this point, I just couldn't get hold of a fresh one. So this came out of a can, so that had to do. It's kind of ruining the vibes of my green mixture, but aubergine isn't really green, so that's what best I could do. That is my sea beet. I'm kind of wildly going in chopping with scissors because I had these pre-frozen from before, and scissors are just easy. Kind of haphazard though. Not really the easiest way to do it, but it works. And then with my spinach, throw that everywhere because that stuff is just large when it's in fresh form, and then it will disappear to nothing like it always does. Spinach is just so annoying to cook with in that way. So full, but it will go. The spinach is just to bulk it out a bit. It's quite a neutral flavour. Oh, I guess no, spinach is grand. But again, it's just it just goes in there. You know what I mean? Stewed greens. Like I say, they would use cassava greens, but again, spinach is a common substitute for many African greens that they use in dishes because it's much easier to get hold of nowadays. But really, whatever kind of greens you have to hand would probably work for this. And the great thing about it is that it's quite a nice earthy dish. The sea beet that I used in particular was a bit earthy. Then throw in a dash of peanut butter, because peanut butter is great and we love that. Peanuts are quite a big thing in a lot of African countries. In Rwanda, for example, peanuts are a big export and big part of the food. They're really good, filling, blah blah, good source of fats, etc. And for this, just going to point out, peanut makes it so nice. It adds that like richness and creaminess to it that is just wonderful. Anyway, throwing the tops of my green onions back on top, give it a bit more green. It's not the most, I won't lie, it's not very attractive, but then I have to say stewed greens, it's not really given, attractive food vibes. Lastly, as part of my dish, I'm onto the Ubugali. This is a cassava dish. Essentially, it's a mash or a porridge made from cassava. I had cassava flour, so that makes it a lot easier, and I'm just adding in boiling water. There's not really a whole lot to it, to be honest. It's basically just forming it into a consistency that makes it, the kind of mash that you want. I also throw in some butter to this at the end because everyone wants butter with their mash, don't they? It would take some, a lot more stirring than that to get all the lumps out. Lastly, I'm cooking my brochettes because for once I managed to get the barbecue out because I am very lazy at doing this. I couldn't be bothered to get the big barbecue out, so it's just a little one. So I had to cram everything on there, my nice spicy tomato marinated brochettes, and let them cook until they're thoroughly cooked through and everything awkwardly balanced because in hindsight I should have got the bigger barbecue out. I was like, this is much easier. It's not easier when you have to rotate everything constantly to get it all cooked through. But I wanted to do that because it's the way they would probably cook it mostly in Rwanda, on some kind of open grill. And it gets those cool, nice char marks going, get that smoky flavour again from the charcoal. So all in the spirit. Because it's such a simple recipe, I feel like the grill, the barbecue really adds that flavour to it. But there you go, the Ubugali, the Isombe, and the brochettes. Really nice. Obviously you have the meat with that kind of rich, sharp, spicy tomato sauce. You have the earthy, peanutty, creamy stewed greens, and then you have the cassava mashed porridge. All of it goes really nicely because they actually all really balance each other out. It's kind of simple, but has enough elements that it brings in so many things. So yeah, good. Lastly, as for my dessert, I am making peanut nougat. Now, this is one that I did not find to be unique to Rwanda. I didn't find much in the way of, desserts that were popular in Rwanda. This is the problem I've come across when looking for desserts for a number of countries where, having something for dessert just it's not a really big popular thing. Peanut nougat, as it happens, tends to be quite popular, desserts, maybe more of a street food kind of snack in a lot of countries, to be fair, not just Rwanda, other African countries. My family comes from Soviet Russia, and it was quite popular there too. In Africa, it would be popular as well because they grow a lot of peanuts there. So there, it's easy, and it's very simple to make. You just heat up the sugar, basically to form a caramel. Add in your peanuts, bit of lemon juice, and then you essentially just leave it to set. I did it in some greaseproof paper because I don't want to have to clean anything in case that sugar does things it shouldn't. But yeah, really simple to make, really easy, filling snack. And like I say, it seems to be very popular in a lot of countries where maybe desserts aren't so popular and you need that kind of filling little snack. I'm currently in Colombia, and peanutty nougat-y things are really popular here again because it's really good hiking snack, for example. But anyway, throw this out to set, and it didn't take long, maybe a few hours, for it to just come together and all harden up. And then there you have it. Press it all in, get it all in those nooks and crannies. But yeah, easy. And peanuts are amazing. Other people eat, okay, if you have a peanut allergy, then it sucks, but yeah. But there is my peanut nougat. The only issue I had with this is it's not It's not like those soft nougat that you might be thinking of. This is nougat as in like hard. It's a bit crunchy for my liking, I have to say. But it is good. I do like it. It's just, I prefer my sweets to be more on the softer side. I don't like quite so much crunch. But either way, really, really simple to make and great way to use up some peanuts. Good hiking snack.